Alright guys, for this video it's going to start off at the NWEA creation screen. So if you were absent from the last class, if you don't have any of your pictures ready to go, you're going to want to do that before you get into this video too far. I know that a couple of the classes are already past this point. You can just fast forward to where you are. So what we're going to do is recreate the NWEA launch screen inside App Inventor. So I'm going to call mine NWEA Dream without spaces because it really doesn't like spaces. I hit OK. It shows me that it's in here. And here's my first screen. I'm going to change this from phone to tablet. And then underneath my screen 1 properties, I'm going to change my screen orientation to landscape. That flips my whole screen sideways and makes it easier to use. Next thing that we're going to do is upload all of our media that we used, that we talked about when we were looking at this screenshot. So we know we have the gold NWEA, the rocket, the book, the ruler, this background piece of paper, and the black NWEA logo. So I already have those saved to my file, so I'm going to upload this. I'm doing this video on my laptop, but if this was on your iPad, then you know it's going to be in your photo library and in your files. Mine is all going to be in here since I'm on a desktop. So I've got my paper, my arrow, here's my ruler. And while I'm uploading, I apologize for the background noise. I'm sitting at the ice hockey rink up in the restaurant, so who knows what kind of stuff we're going to hear in the background. Almost done. I got 2 more, my NWEA logos. The reason we want to upload all these up front is so that when we're linking stuff, we don't have to go searching for it later. Plus, once it's already in our once it's already in our App Inventor, even if we delete those out of our camera roll, it's not going to make them disappear from our app. Alright, so there's all my files. Looking at my picture, at my division on this, I know that the first thing I need is this green outline, and that is going to be one of my horizontal arrangements like we talked about in class. So on my App Inventor, I'm going to go over here down to Layout, and I'm going to choose Horizontal Arrangement. When I drag that on the screen, you can kind of see this blue line moving around. That blue line tells you exactly where that horizontal arrangement is going to land. Now, it's only going to be an automatic height and an automatic width. That doesn't really work for what we need it to be. We need it to be a set size, and we want that size to be the same no matter what kind of device we're testing on. So for my height, if I look at the picture, I guess that would be about 7% of the height of my entire app. So I hit OK, and I think my width is going to be the width of the entire screen, so that's going to be 90% for me. I don't like going to 100% because, as you can see, there's like a green line here showing how far over it is. I don't want to end up off screen. When I look back at my app again, I know I have one more horizontal arrangement where my word login is going to be, so I'm going to throw that on the screen right now as well. So this horizontal arrangement goes underneath the first. It automatically stacks that way. My height on that one is also going to be about 7%, and my width is going to be 90% again. Now I know that for this first horizontal arrangement, that is where, looking back at my picture, I need my gold NWEA to be. So I'm going to come over here to User Interface, grab an image, and that's going in my first horizontal arrangement. Again, we're looking at that blue line to see where it's supposed to end up. When I put that in there, you can see that it's nested underneath or indented underneath that first horizontal arrangement. And I'm going to rename that to Gold NWEA because that's the picture that I want to put in that spot. I see it here, and now that I'm highlighted on Gold NWEA, I can see it really tiny up here. I now need to tell it to put the picture in that background. So on the Gold NWEA, under my properties, I'm going to come down here to Picture, and I'm going to choose my gold NWEA picture that I uploaded. I click OK. And I can see that something happened, but I still can't see my picture. And the reason that is the height and width of the properties of the gold NWEA aren't set to the same as the horizontal arrangement. So I need to change the height to 7% because that's what I did on the height of the horizontal arrangement. And now I can see my NWEA there. The width doesn't really matter for me. There's nothing else going into that horizontal arrangement. For the second one, I know if I go back and look at my picture that I said that one's an L, which is a label, and I needed to say log in. So I'm going to go over to my user interface, and I'm going to grab label, and I'm going to drag and drop it inside my second horizontal arrangement. It goes all the way to the side over here, shows up in my components. So my component right now says label 1. I'm going to rename that to log in. And that doesn't change my text because all I did was change the code name. I didn't change the text. So over here in properties, it says text for label 1. I'm going to change that to say login. So I can see it on here now. It's on the far left, but in my NWEA picture, it's centered. So what I have to do is go back to my horizontal arrangement 2, the one that my login words are in. And the very first properties at the top are align horizontal and align vertical. I'm going to change both of those to center. When I do that, it takes my word login, since that's the only thing in my arrangement, and centers it in the box. Now, if I don't want it to be black, which in this case I do, but when I go to my label for that, I can change things like the text alignment, the text color. I can change if it's bold or not. So like right now it's black. I can tell it that I want the font to be bolded. I can tell it I want the font to be italics. I can tell it that I want the font just to be bigger in general. So change the word login for you so that it's more centered and that it looks a little more like your NWEA picture where we divided it up. Next, I need one more horizontal arrangement. Sorry, I went off that picture too fast. So I've got this first green box is horizontal arrangement 1. Second green box, horizontal arrangement 2. This third green box is going to be another horizontal arrangement. So I'm going to pull another one in from my layout tab. Horizontal arrangement, throw it in there. Now my first one is 7% tall, my second one is 7% tall, which means I've already used 14% of my screen. Now this last horizontal arrangement takes up almost the entire rest of the page. So if we do 100 minus 14, we're at 86. I do want to leave some space at the bottom, so I'm probably going to put my arrangement height at 75% and see what that looks like. I think that's just about perfect because I still have this gap at the bottom. I need it to be just as wide as everything else that has been on my screen. So I'm going to make my width 90% just like I did for everything else. And now I've got this big open space. Looking back at my picture, inside this bottom horizontal arrangement, I've got 2 blue boxes. Now the big blue boxes that I have listed on here are vertical arrangements. Because I need a stack of stuff on the left and I need a different stack of stuff on the right, I can't just throw it all in there or it's just going to stack one thing after another. So I do 2 vertical arrangements that go side by side. That's why we needed the third horizontal arrangement, is so that we can get those to stack that way. So I'm going to come back to my layout. I'm looking for the 4th one down, vertical arrangement. You do not want a vertical scroll arrangement. It's going to mess up with your coding. So I grab vertical arrangement and I watch for that blue to show up on the left side. I drop it. I grab a second vertical arrangement and I watch the blue so I can drop it just to the right. It comes in and now I've got my 2 horizontal or vertical arrangements. Looking at my picture, this first vertical arrangement only takes up like, I don't know, maybe 20%, and it's the same height as my horizontal. So I go back in here. I know that my horizontal arrangement, I can click back on it to double check, is 75% tall. So this vertical arrangement the height's going to be 75, and then my width is going to be 20. It pushes everything to the side a little bit. Now this vertical arrangement, my height is going to be 75. My width can't be a 90 because I've already got 20% here, so 90 minus 20 means that width is going to be about 70%. Now that shoved my green line probably underneath this one, and I'm not quite sure it's there, so I'm going to drop that down to like a 68 to double check. And now I can see my green line again, and I'm happy with the way that looks. The reason we couldn't just do the 90 minus 20 is because we do have this little tiny space in here between the two vertical arrangements. Now that we have both of those set, you're going to use images to go stacked one on top of the other in this column for your rocket, your book, and your ruler. And then looking back at your NWEA picture, you're going to need to add in a label, a text box, a label, another horizontal arrangement where you're going to have a text box and a button, another button, another label, another button, and another label. So you're going to put all of those into your App Inventor and then come back and check the video to see if yours looks like mine. So I'm going to pause my video while I go and finish my layout. Alright guys, so here's my final screen where you can see all of my components, where I start off with screen 1. I do have to put my background image of my paper in there. I forgot to get that in. So I'm going to click that and say OK. Then I have my horizontal arrangement with my gold NWEA, horizontal with my login words, a horizontal that now has one vertical arrangement that has the rocket, the book, and the ruler, a vertical arrangement that has the name label, the name box, the password label, a horizontal arrangement that has the password box and the next button. I have a practice test button, a label that says practice test in Spanish, a student resources button, and a label that says student resources in Spanish. I also have a final horizontal arrangement at the very bottom that has a left aligned image. So my horizontal arrangement, is a right aligned, and the image in there is my black NWEA. If yours does not look like mine, when I was flipping through these just a moment ago, go back, pause the video on each of them, and it gives you whatever the appearance, whatever the property should be on each of these separate things that will tell you exactly how I made mine the way it did. Okay? That's your NWEA screen. Now you can barely see the paper behind here, so if it bothers you that you can't, you can click on each of your horizontal arrangements, and instead of background color default, you can change it to none, and it makes that disappear so that you can actually see your paper through it. But if you're testing this on a tablet, then you're going to be able to see through it anyway, because the gray does not show up on the tablets. It's only in the development mode so that you can kind of see how big things are supposed to be as you're working on them. So that's it for your NWEA one. You're going to need to make sure that we can see enough of your screen that we can see all of this. Your components panel. Properties aren't really important since they change for each one, but you definitely need to have at least your whole viewer, your whole property or components panel, and your name in this top right corner. That screenshot is going to be turned in for a grade. If you got any questions, please make sure to ask.